Terminal check-in, Sunday morning net.
Good morning from Pelican.
Hey, and
After visiting Starfish Beach and exploring Isla Colón, we set out for smooth sailing to see the rest of Bocas del Toro. Protected from the Caribbean Sea, sailing in the archipelago is great, with moderate winds and small waves. Our friends came to visit us from New Orleans. Say hi to Steph and say hi to David, our first international visitors on SV Pelican. Panama has incredible biodiversity. We were surrounded by wildlife, both in the trees and under the water.
We learned some new skills while hanging out in Bocas del Toro. Importantly, we got dive certified. I've dived before, but it was Anne's first time and we both loved it. I can't wait to do more diving. We also learned to foil board. We met a guy, Dave, who was passionate about teaching us. Here we're getting pulled behind a dinghy to learn how to foil on the board. A foil is like an airplane wing, so you fly up into the air and are supported by a little mast. You can see Anne's actually foiling if you look at her back foot. She's up in the air for a little while. It's my turn. I think we're gonna need a bigger dinghy motor. But I did keep my balance pretty well for a while. We also bought a wing, which is how you propel yourself on a foil board. Here we're using it with our stand-up paddleboard to learn how to use the wing separately, and then eventually we'll put it together. I'm trying to make it to the floating bar, which is just upwind of us. Here's what it looks like when it's all together. This is Dave, and he's making it look easy. We also took surfing lessons. I really thought there'd be more water involved, but I think I looked pretty good dock surfing as well. We did eventually go out to the reef, and we both stood up for several seconds, so we technically surfed. We also met Essen, who taught us how to fire dance. This is me fire dancing. Bocas del Toro has its own version of Mardi Gras, and Carnival was amazing. People dress up as devils and whip at the crowd as a representation of the evils of slavery. It was technically shut down this year due to COVID, but it's really tough to squash the Mardi Gras spirit no matter where you are.
When we wanted to skip the party, we would set sail for remote anchorages and have them all to ourselves. Here we are anchored at Zapatia number 2. The islands are named Zapatia, which is Spanish for shoes, because from above they look like giant footprints. We enjoyed hiking the islands lush tropical forest and found it quite peaceful, different than the filthy Fridays in Bocas Town. But eventually we had to head back to town to resupply and say goodbye to Zapatia.
So we are getting ready to leave Zapatia number 2 to head back to Bocas Town for resupply and a few other things. On the way here, we took the outside route, the offshore route, which is open to the Caribbean Sea, and there's a pretty big swell running today. So on the way back, because it'll be upwind, we've decided to take the inner route. And so there's one little tricky spot, so we're getting familiar with it. This is Crawl Key, and then you have to sort of weave your way through some coral formations in mangrove islands, and it gets a bit shallow. So we have a lot of sources of information. This is a satellite chart. There's actually a second satellite chart we can look at. Let's see. So there you can see different satellites have different times of day, so you get different colorings here. You can see the little more visible, so we'll use that while we're underway to verify our position. We also have the cruising guide, which has a aerial photograph and depth. These are in meters, so plenty deep, approaching Crawl Key, but then just past Crawl Key is where you got to really pay attention. There's some zeros, which are probably now a mangrove island, which is actually better than submerged coral because you can see it. But you can see there's a nice deep channel you can sneak through. So we'll put Annie on the bow with her polarized sunglasses, keeping a lookout. You can see we haven't looked at the chart plotter yet, but B&G chart on your phone doesn't really have much detail in there. This area hasn't been charted in a long time, so it's really important to look at other sources of information like satellite charts and the cruising guide.
All right, so let's get underway and try not to become a shipwreck. By Walla Bear, this is Hurricane. What is our water depth?
It was 80 feet, it's now dropping to 50.
Local fishermen here. When the locals are fishing from their cayucos, they normally don't use fishing poles, but instead just throw a line with bait over by hand and reel it in. Got the sat charts. Eye sailor. Chart plotter.
Which says 7 feet, but we're actually in 37.
And the human eye.
The most important navigational tool on the boat. So we made it through Crawl Key Channel. The reported depths on the sea map charts were way off. They had like some areas of just 7 feet, and I think the controlling depth we saw was like 27 feet. That wasn't even the same spot. So the satellite charts really come in handy. We learned about that after joining the Panama Posse, a cruising association. It showed us how to set that up, and yeah, definitely come in handy in the future. Places like San Blas and the whole South Pacific, where the charts sometimes are from 1880, and there's a lot of coral and reefs and things move around and hurricanes and stuff like that. So looking forward to using more of that, and you can make your own from imagery that you find. So maybe I'll start looking for satellite sources. We're about 5 miles from Bocas Town. We were planning on staying out a couple extra days, but we had a few things break. Notably, the outboard motor bracket is broken, and so it's kind of a wobbly situation to motor with the dinghy, and so it's not much fun going places if you can't go ashore. So we're gonna head back to town and get that fixed, and then on to the next adventure. Moving the boat today from South Anchorage to Red Frog Marina for 30 days. We're putting her in a slip to do some travel, and I have a few boat projects that require shore power. And on our way, we get to pass the 3-masted brigantine Golden Line. She's a Dutch ship built in 1937, I believe, doing a semester at sea type trainee thing. Pretty cool boat. Really like the lines. I would love to get aboard her. Give it a try later. On the other side of the boat, we have the fake pirate ship, Black Magic. It's a booze cruise type deal, but also impersonating a tall ship. It must be slightly embarrassing now to be on that boat and look over and see a real tall ship. So, anyway, goodbye, Bocas. We're not going too far, but back to Marina life for a little bit. How do you feel about that, Ann?
I really don't like marinas. I hope we spend as little time as possible in the marina, but it is necessary when you leave your boat for a month at a time. So I think it'll be good to get some work done.
And Ann's gonna be gone for a little bit longer. I'm only leaving the boat for 2 weeks. One more shot of the Golden Line, 3-masted barkentine. Most barkentines are 2-masted, so I'm just calling this one a 3-masted. If anybody knows better, leave a comment. Beautiful. Walking back from the beach, back to the marina, spotted a sloth with a baby. The baby's clutching onto his mother's chest there. And soon we'll have a telephotic lens and we'll be able to see the sloth-like expression on the sloth's face. But right now, this is as good as we can do. So, good night, sloth. Back to the boat. Just another walk through the marina.
Can you see it?
Yeah. That's cool. Alright. Let's get this party started! The non-skids become pretty slippery over the years, so we're applying Kiwi Grip, which is a special paint that after you roll out with a special roller provides a nice non-skid finish.
Of a lot of preparation. We are on our way to go pick up some very special guests from the airport.
We are going to pick up Ann's 3 older sisters and their children.
Woo! Ashley Women Invasion incoming!
Tomorrow night there will be 9 people sleeping on the Pelican. new outboard motor today. We've been looking for a Tohatsu 9.8B or Mercury 9.9 LW, but those are very hard to find, and so we got ourselves a Yamaha Enduro 8 horsepower for the porta
So
boat.
we can increase our range on the dinghy and go to more snorkeling and dive spots. Wow!
We gotta get rid of this trash somehow. That'll be fun.
Wow.
There it is.
It's beautiful.
Next up, we gotta get it set up and break it in. Our time is winding down here in Bocas del Toro, so we are taking care of a few pre-passage chores. One is we got new rigging a while back, and there's a phenomenon called construction stretch where the individual wires, once they're loaded up, they kind of set in place and you get a little stretch. So we are now tuning the rig, which involves taking the furler apart and taking all the cotter pins out. Our friend Rui let us borrow his tension gauge, which is handy. Otherwise you gotta do it by feel. And yeah, so getting ready to start sailing offshore again. That's a half turn. And another half turn, perfect. Let's check it.
Measuring the tension in the
So we have
shroud.
5/16" cable, and we want around 15% of breaking strength, which would be 28. Right now we're at 22. So we need to get a little more tension.
Tighten it up a few turns, check it again. Well, the tuning of the rig went really well, but we discovered that our jib halyard has very severe chafe. This is the line that holds the jib up. So I don't know. We're not exactly sure how this happened. Maybe because we installed mast steps on the mast in Guatemala before we left, and so it's happening on the inside of the mast, so maybe it's rubbing against something in there. I'm gonna have to go up the mast and check that out, but what do you think, Brian?
Well, I'm no naval architect, but I think we have a chafe problem. Hey guys, checking in from Bocas del Toro, Panama. Another day on the SV Pelican. We tuned the rig recently, and it's been a while since someone been up the mast, so we're just doing a little rig inspection. We had the mast down recently, so we don't expect any problems, but we did have a stuck halyard. Our jib halyard was stuck, so I had to come up here and yank it free. And we added some chafe protection, which turned out to be too big. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna miss Bocas del Toro. That's the city in the background there, and this is the south anchorage. Got a couple friends anchored out there. But time and tide wait for no man. Big shout out to the support crew.
Hola.
Annie did a great job hoisting me up here. And yeah, so time for a beer and some enchiladas.
It is 7:53 a.m. on Friday, April 8th. It's time to start our passage. So we're gonna start the engine and pull up the anchor. And we are underway. Pulled up the anchor at 8:07 a.m. And the rain just started getting heavier. So it is 10 o'clock. We left at 8:07, pulled up the anchor 8:07, and then started heading out, and all of a sudden all of our electronics went out. So we tried to troubleshoot it while we were in some swell heading out to the Caribbean Sea, but we decided we couldn't figure it out, and so we decided to turn around, come back. So now we are anchored in Old Bank.
We made it like 2 miles, guys.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
apparently Bocas does not want us to leave.
The entire NEMA network dropped out, so we're taking everything apart and attaching the sensors one at a time to see what is causing the problem. I'm pretty sure it's probably the custom cable I made to connect the Victron to our NEMA bus, which is, I realize, probably not something you want to do. So the only things we have left to connect are the wind sensor, the depth sounder, and the compass.
Yes. So we will see. The depth sounder is very important.
Yeah, that one's probably the most critical. The list goes depth sounder, autopilot. Everything else.
So we really need the depth sounder to go to San Blas because it's a lot of reefs and a lot of tricky, uncharted areas. So hopefully, when we do this next check, we'll have the depth sounder.
So we just reconnected everything. We're waiting for the system to boot up, except for my custom cable, of course. So if it all works,
You're omitting that from the system for now?
We're gonna buy the correct cable, which is quite expensive, which is why I made a custom one. But yeah, if this works, we should be back in business. We'll see. We added some more devices, and now we don't see anything. So there's either a bad cable somewhere or a bad junction. I don't know. Just have to keep going through it one by one. Work, device list, depth, speed,
That's the
temperature,
depth sounder, yeah.
DST 200. So
We have it.
should be getting depth now. Autopilot's working. Depth's not.
We have a depth sounder. 28 feet deep right here. Good thing, because I put out about 120 feet of chain. Well, give us a status report.
So the wind sensor seems to be the culprit. Anytime you connect it to the network, it brings the whole network down. So we're leaving it disconnected for now, and we should have all the rest of the instruments. I don't know for sure, but I think maybe my custom Victron to NEMA cable maybe caused the power surge. It was vibrating. The engine was running, so we're getting some vibrations, and it could have vibrated loose. The ends were just screw terminals. So it could have vibrated loose and caused the power surge in the network, which then killed the wind sensor. I don't know. But the next step is to go up the mast and bring the wind sensor down to the deck, but we're not going to do that here. We'll do that in San Blas.
This is not good weather for going up the mast. So that sucks. We've already lost the wind sensor before due to a lightning strike.
It's our second one.
And they're not cheap, but you know, it could have been a lot worse. I was really scared. We lost our autopilot depth sounder, which are like the most important things that we need. We have that, and we have our compass, and what else on the NEMA network? Speed,
AIS.
depth, AIS. We have everything else. We just don't have the wind sensor, which is really a luxury item. We like it. It's fun to see what our wind angle is when we're sailing, but we are sailors and we can just feel the wind on our skin, so we don't really need an instrument to tell us where the wind is blowing
from. Tie a piece of yarn to the shrouds.
Yeah.
Old school.
So we're gonna continue on, but right now it is not really a fun time to pull up the anchor, so we might wait for this rain to stop and tidy up a bit, and then try again. Head to San Blas.
Update on day one. It's about 7 p.m. The sun has set, and we are getting settled in for the night. It started out rainy, and we had issues with the NEMA network, but it turned into a pretty calm, sunny sailing day. We have the current with us, which is amazing. That never happens. So even though we're taking a leisurely 4 knots through the water, we're doing about 5 knots over the ground, which is great. And Anne has been relaxing most of the day. She doesn't know what the feeling was. She thought maybe she wasn't feeling good, but it turns out it was just relaxation. She's not used to it. So we are going to split up the night. I'll do another hour until about 8 o'clock, and then Anne will do a couple hours, and We're going to be a little more organic than we were in our last passage. Our last passage we were super strict, but this is a short passage which can be kind of tough because you can't really get into a rhythm. I'm sure at some point tonight it is going to start storming, at least some rain, if not some lightning, but we're prepared and it's all part of the adventure. So check in with you guys tomorrow morning. And you have anything you want to say?
Maybe if there's a storm later, we'll remember to bust out the camera, show you guys what it's like.
Yeah, the problem is like whenever something crazy happens, the last thing on your mind is grab the camera, you know? I guess that's the difference between us and Hube Vlogs.
Yeah. Captain by Wallabear just woke up from a nap, and it is hour 43 of our passage from Bocas del Toro to San Blas Islands. We have been beating into 20 knot winds the whole time, 18 to 20, something like that. We don't have a wind sensor anymore, but we know what 20 knots feels like. We know what beating into 20 knots feels like because we do it all the time. But yeah, this has been a challenging and bumpy ride, but we're getting so close now. We are, how many nautical miles?
13.7 to the waypoint outside of the San Blas channel.
Hit that like and smash the subscribe button on the left.